Well, hello. We are here for our third and final session together. It's your boy Brant here for, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit sad that this is going to be it for us. But I am so excited that we will wrap it up today and move towards putting everything we've talked about into action today. I see that we've got Vegas in the house, North Carolina, some Calgary, Central Wisconsin, Pittsburgh even. This is what I really would love to know before we start. In one word, what is the last two sessions? What have you taken away from them? What's the thing you've taken away from the last two sessions where we talked about the importance of discovering our black sheep values? I would love to know what it is. So I'm looking here. We got Winnipeg and Minneapolis. What I want to know over the last two sessions, what have you taken out? What have you taken away from it? As a designer, as an architect, as a just wherever you are right now in your life, whatever you are doing right now is really what I want to know. I'd love to know what has resonated with you, because we're going to talk today about several different things. The first thing we're going to talk about today, of course, is becoming those conscious creators that we all desire to be. If you remember, we talked about the difference between just simply being intentional and actually working and choosing our actions with deliberate intention. And I see some of the things here, enlightenment, positivity, they're the filter. The black sheep values are the filter that everything runs through. I love that. Be original, awareness, yes, renewed focus. All of those things, right? All of those things will help us become conscious creators. Now, the whole point of becoming a conscious creator is so that we can actually begin to design on purpose. That was the goal, right? That's exactly what we all want to do. We want to be able to be the unique original that we are created to be. And if you remember right, there is a specific way in which we go about that. So we talked right from the very beginning, we talked about this. If you're going to design on purpose, we have to start with the what. We have to start with the what. What are our non-negotiables? What are the things that matter most to us in our lives? Once we know what those are, we can begin on our journey to designing on purpose. And so if you remember, we call the what our black sheep values. And the reason that we call them our black sheep values is because if you remember right, a black sheep's wool cannot be dyed. And so those are the things that are incredibly important to us, that no matter how hard we focus, no matter how much someone wants to, influence us or change whatever it might. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. 6 weeks of sheep school. 6 weeks of sheep school. And this is where we are. This is what homeschooling gets us all. You realize that, right? This is what we're facing. It makes it really tough. I apologize. Our black sheep values are those non-negotiable, most important things in our life. No matter what someone says to us, no matter how much they want to try to change us, we simply won't be moved. That is what our black sheep values are. And if you remember, what we said is that we all have a flock of 5. We all have a flock of 5 black sheep values. And those are the filter, as someone just said. They're the filter for which we make all of our decisions, right? It's how we know we're in alignment with the things that matter most to us. And so we've talked about the last 2 weeks. How do we get there? We first said this is the secret. The secret to designing on purpose is to understand that we have these things called black sheep values. And then last week was all about how do we find them? And we talked about our favorites, and you guys loaded me up with your favorite movies of all time. And it was a learning experience for me, for all of you. I start to get an idea now of why you do what you do for a living. And so we talked about the impact that our favorites have and how they leave breadcrumbs back to the things that matter most to us. And that's how we start to look for proof. We start to look for the proof of what our black sheep values actually are. Now, if you remember, I told you a story that a couple of years ago, I was doing a keynote for some of the top designers in the country. And I was the closing keynote, and the opening keynote was a woman named Paula Zuccotti. And Paula is an ethnographer and a product development specialist. And she wrote this incredible book right here called Everything We Touch. It is an amazing book that had a really interesting concept. You see, she followed people around, over 60 different individuals, and documented everything they touched from the moment they woke up to the moment they went to bed. And then she sort of gathered all of those images for every individual and took one photograph per person to sort of show you a day in the life. So my question that I have for you today is this. What is the first thing you touched this morning? When you woke up, what's the first thing you touched this morning? Keep it clean, people. Keep it clean. This is PG-13 here. So what I want to know is, what object did you touch first this morning when you woke up? Was it a toothbrush, perhaps? If you're like me, it was the gallon-sized coffee mug, maybe. What was it? What was the first thing? It actually starts to resonate. So, oh gosh, look at this. This is the world we live in right now, right? So Mackenzie says this right here. She says, "Yeah, my phone." Phone. Yes, I think it's crazy. When I grew up, when I was your age, if I wanted to touch the phone, I'd have to walk to the kitchen and not trip over the giant, curly cord that was coming out of the wall. So I understand I sound old right now, but yes. Look at glasses, dog, pillow, water, coffee, Proverbs. Nice. Phone again. Yeah. Cell phone. So it's interesting to start to think about the things that matter to us, right? Because this is what Paula ended up doing. She started to, in this book, she started to show the pictures that sort of gave this glimpse into people's lives. And it looks something like this. Right? And so if you look, you can see, now I'm going to assume this person gets up, they wear their little slippers, maybe a little yoga. I'm guessing it's a woman. I'm not exactly sure, but it's 2020, but I'm going to say it's a woman. And so from the upper left to the bottom right, that is chronological order from the time they woke up to the time they went to bed. And so when you look at this, you start to see, okay, what matters to this person. So they're creative, they're cooking, they have some video camera, they've got obviously some music, a musician of some sort. So we start to get a glimpse into the things that matter most, right? So here's another one right here. Here's another one that I love. So this was actually somebody who, this was a 2-year-old. And this 2-year-old touched over 200 different objects. 200 different objects. Can you imagine? That's what it looks like. That was fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. And then, so the idea here is this. When she showed these slides, I started to think about my black sheep values, right? So if you remember what mine were, they were creativity, hope, impact, empathy, family, and authenticity. Those are my 6. And as she is showing these images, I am sitting here and I'm going, if somebody followed me around for 24 hours, would they see any evidence of these 6 things? Would they show up in a picture like that? And the truth was, maybe a few at best. And that's when I learned I had to start doing things differently. You see, it's not just about defining those things that matter most. It's about speaking them into existence, right? That's really what we were talking about. So when we look here, it's not just about finding your flock of five. It's about speaking them into existence so the proof starts to exist. And the way that we do that is with deliberate intention. It's only through deliberate intention that we start to be able to design on purpose. You know, it's not just about knowing what the end result is that we want. It's about choosing every action with deliberate intention, not winging it, but actually picking the moments where things appear. So when I say that, what I mean is this. When you define those black sheep values, we're going to look at this from 2 point of views. We're going to look at it from just you and living your life, and then we're going to look at it from a design standpoint. So when it comes to you and living your life and stopping the winging it epidemic that's happening and starting to live with deliberate intention, starting to live your life on purpose, what that actually means is that you are going to start to program your black sheep into your day, which means you'd open up your calendar, you look at your appointments that you have for the day, and next to every appointment, you're going to write one or more of those black sheep values because you want to make sure they appear. You don't want to wait for the perfect moment. You don't want to wait for luck or by accident that these things appear. You are choosing when they're going to appear, and you will speak them into existence. That is how we begin to live our lives with deliberate intention. That's all the difference in the world. When you start to do that, we start to separate ourselves from everybody else who's winging it. So let's talk about it from a design standpoint, because that's really what this was all about. So we start to talk from a deliberate intention standpoint. When we start to say, these, I'm going to choose when and where my black sheep show up on a regular basis, what we really start to look at is from a design standpoint, are you actually beginning the process with the things that matter most to you? I know there are things that matter to the client. I know that. But what are you bringing to the table? Why would anyone come to you and not someone else? Well, the truth is they come to you because of the unique offerings that you possess. And that's why we need to identify them. That's why the black sheep values are so incredibly important. So for me, creativity, hope, impact, empathy, family, authenticity. If I'm a designer and I'm designing a space for someone, you had better be able to see those things that matter most to me in the design. That's how you know it's me. So when you begin that process, you need to have your black sheep values right with you, so that you can start to go, okay, if I'm going to design this space and creativity is one of mine, what does creativity look like in this space? How can I bring hope into this design? Is it through a window? To be able to capture that natural light? What's the creative space? Is it designating a certain area for creativity to take place? Or maybe it's in the design itself. What about impact, if that was one of yours? When I'm looking at something, when I write a song, I have to sit there and think about the impact I want the song to have. I'm being deliberate with my intention. And it's exactly the same when it comes to design. You've got to be deliberate with your intention, and that comes from defining those things and actually speaking them into your work. That's where you separate yourself from the pack. So my questions are, you've been here a couple weeks. Some of you have downloaded the worksheet. You've actually started on your journey to defining the things that matter most to you. What I want to know is, if you could pick one, if you were sure, you know it deep in your heart, what is the value What is the value that you can just simply say to me right now and say, this is something that I know, I don't even need to confirm it. It is deep in my bones. It's been that way for decades. And I know this is one of the things that matter most to me. I'd love to see what it is. Because when we start to look at those things and we start to think of them through our designs, it changes how we approach it. It absolutely changes how we approach our work. So I'm dying to know, what is it? Give me that one or two things that you go, gosh, you know what? I did the work. I did the worksheet. I've thought about it. I've thought through my favorites. So we've got things in here. Good. Empathy, equality. So I look at that and go, how can you put equality into a design? That is unique to Tina. I look at this, authentic. Okay, fantastic. What does that mean, Lisa? That's what you have to ask yourself. What can somebody look at something you've created and say, gosh, I don't even need to see Lisa's name on that. I know what it is. Integrity, individuality, connection. I love this. Look, integrity again, positivity, all of those things. So I see some similar words, and that's because, surprise, you guys do similar things for a living. Right? And so I love that. I see the word integrity a lot, but how would you incorporate integrity into your design? I know how you could incorporate integrity into the relationship with your client, which is also honoring and feeding that sheep. But what about the design itself? Is it in the materials you use? Giving it the strength to make sure that it maintains its integrity even in the middle of a potential hurricane or an earthquake? Maybe that's how you design it. You design it to be impenetrable, right? Unbreakable. Maybe that's the type of integrity. Maybe that's how you honor it. But when you look and you start to really focus in your design, people start to understand and see you for who you truly are, that unique original, that undyeable black sheep's wool. That is the point. That is where we want to get to. Because as you remember, that design, the whole purpose of that design is to get the first look. That's the reason that you want to design in that way. So what do I mean by first look? Well, if you remember the story about farmers, that in fact, they don't value black sheep like the rest of the flock, but that doesn't mean that they don't have value. It means they value them differently. And if you remember, what a sheep farmer does every morning is they keep one black sheep for every 100 white sheep in the flock, and they keep them as a marker. So if they have 500 sheep in their care, when they get up in the morning and they look out over the field, they should see 5 black sheep. Their uniqueness allows them to get the first look, right? It allows them to get the first look. That's what's so important. That's what's going to get you the business as opposed to somebody going somewhere else. You want to be the ones they look to first when it comes to innovative design, when it comes to really nailing what the client wants. That comes from your uniqueness. Not your company, not your organizational values, you. It comes from you. If they're dealing with you, it comes from you. And we have to take ownership of that because it's what separates you from everybody else. And hopefully, if you work for an organization that encourages diversity and diversity of thought and the way that we approach things, and they allow people with different strengths to come and collaborate together, well, that's the recipe for some incredible, incredible work, right? Some very happy clients. And that's really ultimately what we're talking about when it comes to this. So, we've talked through this entire thing. And if you look, gosh, we said we want to be conscious creators. That's who we want to be. We want to be conscious creators. In order to do that, we've got to be able to live our lives and design on purpose. Well, we do that by defining the what. The what are our black sheep values. We all have at least a flock of 5, right? Those flock of 5, we need to start looking for the proof that they are in fact our sheep and not somebody else's. and we start to speak them into existence with deliberate intention. We incorporate them into our design so that we get the first look from people when they are trying to have that perfect partner when it comes to designing a space. But it all comes back to this. It all comes back to purpose. So you remember I told you that to do something on purpose means that you're doing something in alignment with your purpose. And so we're going to wrap up this entire series with you understanding that your homework is to write a purpose statement for you. Now, I know you've heard that you need to start with why, but you don't. We can't. We can't start with why because we don't know what matters most. That's why we have to start with what. So you have the formula here. Define those black sheep values. When you have them, it's the activation of those values that become your purpose. So for me, creativity, hope, impact, empathy, family, authenticity. You know, those are my black sheep values. My purpose is to creatively impact people's lives by authentically providing hope. That's the reason I get up every day. That's the reason I do anything in my life, to creatively impact people's lives by authentically providing hope. If it sounds familiar, it's because you've heard my black sheep values. They're right there in my purpose. That's how I know it will resonate with me. That's how I know I can lean on it to find the commitment needed to push things through to fruition, even when things get tough. It's the same thing when it comes to design. You've got to define these things. You've got to choose that purpose statement because it's what you're going to hold yourself accountable to. It's the rules that come with being you. That's what it really is. And here's the thing. The majority of us have been bred to be rule followers. And here's a case where that's a really good thing. A really good thing. Define the rules of your life. Let it keep you in this box because there's freedom within structure. When you know how far the edge is, you can walk up to the very last step. When you don't know where the edge is, you stay in the middle because it's safe. And I can't tell you the amount of design I've seen out there that I would categorize as safe. That's not you. That's not who you were meant to be. You were meant for more. And that more is manifested through your black sheep values. So my ask, discover what yours are. Write and choose your purpose statement and begin to use that to design things that resonate with your heart so that you can start to meet the needs of your clients. It is the path that makes you you and will get you that first look every time. Listen, I'm happy to answer a couple of questions in a few minutes that we have left. I just want to say how incredibly thankful I am to my partners at Milliken. Jim McCallum and Matt Cooper and Sherry and Leslie and the whole team have been nothing but amazing. And that is a dream when you're someone like me. So as a creative myself, thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me this space to teach, to talk, to inspire. It has meant everything in this time where we're all sort of struggling. We're all looking for the things to hold on to. And I appreciate your foresight and your ability to say it's not just about work, it's about life. And we've had a chance to really talk about both of those over the last 3 weeks. This has been amazing. If there's anything I can do for any of you, please don't hesitate. You see right up here, down here, that's my social. Please feel free to reach out at any time through Facebook, Instagram, Friendster, wherever. I'm everywhere you could possibly imagine. I would love to be there to help. And in the meantime, don't waste this time that you have. It's a gift. It's a gift. And even though we're all cooped up and we're nervous about what comes next from all that uncertainty, what gets us through it is identifying those things that matter most. That's the secret. Not just for great design, but a great life. So I can't thank you guys enough for everything. Gosh, it's been amazing. All of you who have tuned in every week, you've come back. You've been excited for that next thing. So Debbie says, will I come to Ohio to meet designers? I absolutely will come to Ohio, Debbie. I will, as long as it's not in the winter months. So I have to put a little qualifier there, but yes, I will do that. You are very welcome, all of you. Bob says this, can you share other purpose statements that you have heard, please? I will do that. I'll do that in the comments afterwards, and I'll show you a few of purpose statements that work both for individuals and for organizations. When I do my private coaching, helping people discover their values, every single one of them ends with a purpose statement, right? Because that's how you're going to hold yourself accountable. And so we've got many, many, many statements we can look at, and I'll make sure that I include those here for everyone to take a look at, because that's really the next step. Define those things. I want to finish with this one last thing. I had told you all about Paula's book. You saw, and if you remember right, this right here, this was one of our images of the 2-year-old. And what I want you to realize is that this is really what most of us, how our lives look. When everything is important, man, does it get cluttered. And when you are trying to design, when this many things matter to you, it's hard to have a clear vision. It truly is. But I want to show you this last image, which was actually the center of her book. What I want you to ask yourself is this. Forget about the religious overtones. What I want you to notice is the focus of how little is in this image. 24 hours, and what you see is everything that this person touched. My question to you is, what would your designs look like with that level of focus? What would your life look like with that level of focus? That is something for all of us to aspire to. I hope I see you all again very soon. Until next time, God bless you all. Thank you so much. Na, 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 na. Baby, I'm the real thing. Baby, I'm the real thing. I'm a little strange and I'm never gonna change, and I'm not afraid of who I am. Get the people standing, get the party dancing. You know you love the way I walk and I talk. Na 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 na.